In a world so changed and so in need of wholeness and healing, where might we find the strength and the values that will steer us through these times? The answer lies in our roots and in the values and culture of the Indigenous Peoples. Their stories of survival, of respect for nature, of love for the environment, their fierce dedication to the land that gives them life, may yet show us the way to wholeness, healing, and survival. Listen to the voices of those who have gone far beyond their homes and villages. While they may have charted their own courses all over the world, their souls remain rooted firmly in the culture of their forebears.
I left the Philippines in 1985 and lived for 2 years in America, subsequently for 3 years in Puerto Rico. And for the last 31 years, I've been living in the UK. My foremost memory as a child was being with the family under an old tree with lots of food offerings and long chanting from among my grandfather asking for the spirits to heal my very sick brother. I learned and respect our old values from our magurang, living with the IP spirits in me and looking back where I come from to where I am now gives me grounding and integrity. I'm proud that we managed to retain our ancient culture and spiritual beliefs with unique experiences as a child made me resilient and carried it in me everywhere and in my heart. Having a skill as an artist is a gift, and to be able to express my talent on a canvas, I've been able to share my work to the world, and that makes me proud of being a Filipino. Being honest and true to my identity gives me the ability and versatility to get on with people from all walks of life around the world.
I remember when my mother's side of my family speaks Tausug and my father's side of family speaks Yakan. I do remember one thing in my childhood, that is, the community. Being raised in an IP community means living in a very big community. Everyone are brothers and sisters, helping each other to cope up with each one's hardships and also laughing with each blessings. As a visionary person, I utilize being an IP to advance Filipino culture and to promote our indigenous languages. I appeared on numerous Korean dramas and movies not only as an actor, but an advocate of our indigenous languages. Look at those famous Korean actors speaking Tausug and Yakan on Netflix. That's something that everyone can be proud of.
I currently reside in Virginia, USA. So yes, I am far, far away from the small fishing village where I was born, raised, and grew up. One important memory I have of my childhood as an IP were the clan gatherings. Whether it was in celebration of a happy event or coming together during a funeral wake, there was always music and singing and dancing and of course food. I can still hear the agams. They were so loud, so many of them, and they played all day long. I can still picture the beautiful, colorful, traditional attire of the men and women. You know, we are a unique people with our own culture and tradition. But honestly, I don't think we are that much different from ordinary, decent folks in terms of what we hold dear, the values that we hold dear. I take pride in knowing that wherever we are in the world, whatever we do, we will always be Bagobos at heart. I take pride in knowing that we are preserving our culture and tradition for the future generation. I do believe that IP culture combined with a world-class education has opened doors for me. And as I said earlier, wherever I am in the world, whatever I do, I am proud to be Pagobo.
The Filipino nation celebrates the 123rd anniversary of Philippine Independence by honoring the Indigenous Peoples of the Philippines. Their own spirit of independence is a national treasure we must all learn from. In music, dance, and song, they share what they have always held dear. As we listen and learn, lessons for a changed world, the legacy of the Indigenous Peoples of the Philippines.
What inspired the idea for Fiesta Filipinas and its format, Ms. Ivy?
We're hoping to bring the experience of the Philippine fiestas closer to people's hearts by making them feel the fiestas somehow.
How can Fiesta Filipinas help tourism in spite of the pandemic?
There's the taste, there's the aroma, there's the sensation of doing things, and everything actually equates to go to the Philippines if you want more.
I hope that with this program, the international community, as well as Filipinos overseas, will have a better appreciation and enjoy what the Philippines has to offer.
Hello to everyone joining us today.
This is the first time that I have an online celebration like this. It's really a great experience for me.
Making this hand set is really fun, and I actually cannot wait dancing with this.
The audio part was the favorite. It really made me want to go in the future.
I really enjoyed the auditory experience. I'm almost crying, you know? I miss home so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the Republic of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary of the Department of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Teodoro L. Locsin, Jr.
123 years ago, the first Philippine flag was raised in Kawit, Cavite to declare Philippine independence after 3 centuries of Catholic Spanish colonial rule. A comparatively benign chapter of history, because the Protestant colonial powers in Southeast Asia went in for near genocide. This was followed by American annexation, an absolutely benign chapter because there was a proposal to sell us to Germany. This was shot down by American friends of the Filipino race in the US Congress. And we know what happened in Germany's African colonies. So we've been lucky. These intervening events did not diminish the significance of that act of national self-determination. We remain, as ever, the first republic in Asian history, a forerunner of Asia's 20th century and onwards. This year, we mark this special moment in our history with the theme, Diwa ng Kalayaan sa Pagkakaisa at Paghilom ng Bayan, the spirit of freedom and unity and national healing. As the world continues in the grip of a once-in-a-century pandemic, it's fitting that we take our Independence Day celebration to reflect on how we can heal and recover as one nation. COVID-19 has affected the lives of all Filipinos, but in different ways. It has been especially calamitous for our Indigenous peoples, who find their fragile existence and livelihood in greater jeopardy now than ever before. To the plague of outsiders coming in to take what's been ancestrally theirs comes this virus, to take away much of what's left to them, their health and life. As the Department of Foreign Affairs presents its 123rd Philippine Independence Day commemoration and celebrates 2021 as the year of the Filipino pre-colonial ancestors, we call attention to the ongoing struggle of our indigenous peoples to preserve their way of life in the face of increasingly daunting challenges. We also pay tribute to their resilience and respect for nature. Timeless lessons that all of us must learn if we are to recover from the present global health crisis caused in part by man's ravages of nature. So let us embrace and treasure the root of our Filipino identity, and from it find the inspiration to continue protecting our freedom and preserving our patrimony as much from enemies at home as abroad. Mabuhay ang sambayanang nagkakaisa sa pagbangon, mabuhay ang malayang Pilipinas.
Today we see a world struggling to survive a pandemic and conquer many other fears as well. The pandemic, invasion, war, all these have drawn barriers that separate races, communities, individuals. In this changed world, we live in a state of increasing separation and isolation. It was not always like this in the archipelago of islands that is the Philippines. What lessons can we draw from our pre-colonial Filipinos who looked outward to new worlds and influences while maintaining the strength of their own communities? Before there was a Philippines, before the Spanish united the archipelago into one colony, there were the island kingdoms, independent and culturally unique, linked by common bonds to the Austronesian migration and its shared heritage. These kingdoms were connected to a larger world. The world of island Southeast Asia itself, a network of island kingdoms, as well as the world of Asia's great empires. The pre-colonial culture of the Philippines was enriched by trade. To the shores of the island kingdoms came merchants and seafarers, all who brought with them the wealth of their own kingdoms, to be bartered for the rich resources of the islands. With trade came social and political connections, as well as influences that shaped the many facets of life. Religion, literacy, diplomacy, and culture. There may not yet have been a country we know today as the Philippines, but our ancestors gave us the very traits we share today as Filipinos. Our openness and curiosity, our acceptance and fluid integration of cultural influence, our welcoming spirit, our ability to integrate with others while retaining our sense of who we are. Pre-colonial Filipinos gave generously to those who came as friends and partners, gathering resources and wealth, as well as influences and interactions, interweaving all these threads into the rich tapestry of culture that we are still discovering today. precarious time, when geographic disputes threaten the security of our nation. The open seas, which once were traversed so freely by our ancestors, have now become an endangered patrimony. All over the world, the resources of oceans, forests, and mountains have become not vital resources to be conserved, but to be exploited and abused. What can we learn from our indigenous peoples about the respect and protection that have always been a part of their animists' lives? The indigenous peoples of the Philippines share a common heritage with our pre-colonial ancestors, as well as with all the native peoples of the world. Nature is the force that they respect, protect, and nurture. The environment is a source of life that must be conserved and guarded. The harvests and agricultural cycles so lovingly continued and preserved, the fruits of forest and jungle so judiciously gathered, the wealth of lakes and open seas. All these the indigenous have never taken for granted. These gifts of the earth have not only sustained life, they have enriched spirituality and belief systems, inspired works of both tangible and intangible heritage, now shared and recognized as legacies for all mankind. And when the modern world had encroached on their ancestral land, the indigenous peoples have valiantly defended their rights, many times with their lives. In the face of marginalization and militarization, poverty and exclusion, they cling firmly to this ethic. Stewardship of the earth, not ownership, has allowed them to survive. The wisdom of the indigenous was best expressed by Makliing Dulag, the Kalinga leader and martyr who opposed the building of a dam that would inundate the ancestral lands of the Kalinga. How can you own that which outlives you? The world has changed, as it must. Indigenous Filipinos have changed with it. Listen to the stories of Filipinos with indigenous roots. Theirs is a story of both diaspora as well as cultural resilience. No matter where in the world they are anchored by blood, memory, heritage, and culture to their indigenous roots.
When I was young, I used to go with my parents because my parents were farmers. We used to walk all the way and we used to gather sweet potatoes, vegetables from the farm. Whenever our neighbor is going to harvest the rice and rice paddies, we go and help the same way around. We help each other, we take turns, and so this spirit of bayanihan or bandang, it makes us more united, and this unity among us bring us, even though we are outside Ifugao, we bring this spirit of unity in ourselves, in our families, in our community, friends, anyone who is in need of help. We have that spirit in us that we will help each other. We work hard, we never complain. We have that resiliency. We survive, we stand in our own despite adversities, and we have to protect our integrity.
I was born and raised in Marawi City, province of Lanao del Sur. I remember when I was a kid that we used to go to madrasa every weekends. So this school is an Islamic school in which they are teaching us how to read in Arabic, in their specific alphabets and numbers, and also some ethics in a way of Islam, which is our religion. Maranao has a lot of colorful cultures that I am proud of, such as wood carving, weaving. We also has specific instruments, a special gong that we are using in our special occasions, weddings, and other ceremonies that are known as kolintang. We also has a type of leadership known as the datus and bais. The most important values that I've learned as a Maranao is to always strive hard and be humble. Be humble wherever and no matter how high you have achieved in life. And always give your best in everything you do by striving hard. My roots as an IP taught me to be humble and dedicated in everything I do in life. As a Filipino, we are known as hardworking people and passionate in any fields of work. So by having these characteristics, it makes me Filipino a good citizens of the world.
I am a half Blaan. My late mom was a Blaan. I was born in Landan, Pulumulok, South Cotabato. Before immigrating to the USA in 2006, I worked as the Luntiang Lumad Project Manager under the Office of the Provincial Agriculturist. Here in Atlanta, Georgia, I am the founder and CEO of ACT International Consulting LLC. With respect to the values that I learned from my old folks, from my Blaan folks, and how they inspired me and strengthened me and kept me grounded. One of them is respect, which is about listening and giving due regard to others, especially those that I have fundamental differences with. And the second would be courage. It is to me standing up and speaking up to take on the challenges that when I see something that is wrong. Third would be equality, enjoying the same human rights and treating each of us be the same no matter who we are. And the fourth one would be achievement. It is very important, especially among Indigenous peoples, that we get formal education. And that is our tool to be engaged more in the society. Fifth is consistency. So as a cultural advocate, I practice consistency in specific advocacies that I am engaged. I am proud that the Blaan is the first IP group of the Philippines with the two manlilikha ng bayan. These two, this is Fuya Bing and this is Maya Estelita. So they have elevated the Blaan Indigenous peoples not only in the national level but also international when they became the National Living Treasures of the Philippines or Gamaba awardees. As a Filipino American, that I am not forgetting my roots and I am sharing it to my kids and for their next generations to know the beauty of our cultural diversity and that their mom is from the Blaan Indigenous Peoples group.
Oo, Wamalayda, Gingging, Langgong Yambo, Sato Libon Tabali, Nalamota, Babanwo Sabu. I am Wamalayda, Gingging, Langgong Yambo, a Tiboli woman from Lake Cebu. That's my clan's name, and I am so proud of it. As a lone Tiboli working at St. Francis Xavier Convent School here in the Land of Smiles, Thailand, for many years now, my cultural identity is my strength. As a Tiboli, the most important values I've learned from my people is to keep our culture and tradition alive. It inspires me because I realize how rich my culture is, and understanding my tradition gives me a sense of belonging. It also keeps me grounded as I made my way in the larger world. It helps me to connect and learn other cultures that I may not be familiar with. I was also an active member of Halabong Community Dance Troupe. I participated with the group in many performances in our locality during festivals to entertain guests and visitors. Though I am no longer an active member, I have stayed in touch and regularly give donations to our selected Tiboli children and youth volunteers. My heart has always been with Tiboli arts and culture, with a strong emotional connection to the tradition and preservation of indigenous identity.
Here are noble Filipinos indeed, who carry on their shoulders both the trials and triumphs of their race, while negotiating their own journeys in a constantly changing world. Today, many Filipino artists have been inspired by the indigenous. Music, the visual arts, fashion, dance and movement. These modern expressions pay respectful homage to traditional culture. But there is much more that we must imbibe and learn. Independence has always been the birthright of our indigenous peoples. As they continue to fight for their right to survive, the lessons they share with us may also help us negotiate the changed world we live in, with respect for humanity's diversity, with unity and oneness of community, with a profound love for country and people. Maranao, Ifugao, Bagobo, Tiboli, Tausug, Kalinga, Yakan, Panay Bukidnon, so many others whose cultures have enriched our country. We learn from them what it means to be rooted in the indigenous. We learn from them, these proudly independent Filipinos.